Last Pint Productions presents the New Way podcast. The New Way contains filthy adult content, including Mel Gibson, Harvey Weinstein, and don't make me say it, Donald Trump. Listener discretion is advised.
I mean, there are gnarly and gross things about Hollywood that I've experienced that rise to the level of criminality. It's not just sexism in Hollywood. It's not talking about that, because a lot of times when you say that word, people just kind of tune out because it's been beaten over people's heads so much. But it's more about the positive side, which is being progressive. And I just want it to rise to the top. And more than that consciousness, I just want people to shine a light for the next person who's coming in the dark. Because I had nobody shining a light for me.
Everybody wants to be naked and famous. Everybody wants to be just like me. I'm naked.
Will you help teach me about this? What is it? A new way?
Hello and welcome to the New Way podcast, coming to you from Boynton Beach, Florida. How are our listeners doing out there this October? That's what we're wondering right now. It's been a bizarre month for news, and I think that's going to lead into a slightly different podcast than we normally tend to put out on the airwaves.
Well, first off, we're going old school today. We're going 2013 style-y, which is
this is just Matt and Ben
just jerking each other off in the studio.
Ben.
Actually, if it was really 2013 style, we would just jerk each other off on the couch with a Yeti mic, kind of generalist,
generally
in our general direction, with the sound of frogs and crickets in the background.
We used to the setup for the old setup, which is amazing that we accomplished as much as we did on it, or as little as we did on it, was that it was like a fight microphone had been dropped in the middle of the ring between the two of us, and we just sort of jockeyed for part of the omnidirectional recording of the microphone to try to be heard or not heard, depending on what's going on.
The points where Matt would be quiet, I actually had him in a full headlock. I'd just be like, no, this is my turn to talk.
Or I made the mistake of moving 1 centimeter back, and it was no longer picking me up in full volume.
You never have to worry about that, Matt.
I am loud. So one thing we should let you all know about before we get into this week's podcast, among other things, is there's a very special episode that's going to air after this episode. So if you're listening to this in real time or so to speak, on our release schedule, we have a very special supersized Halloween episode, and I don't flippantly throw shit show around often enough, and I'm going to throw it around right now. It is a wild fucking podcast.
Yeah.
It's maybe the weirdest, I don't know,
it's got
hour and a half we've ever done.
Yeah, there's 4 people altogether involved. There's a lot of...
There are treats.
There are lots of treats. There are lots of drinky treats.
There are a lot of drinky treats.
There's Drunk Monster Ben.
There's audible candy. I don't know if you guys know, there's audible candy very early on in the podcast, and it's disgusting. Let me just warn you, the opening moments of the podcast will likely turn your stomach to some degree, depending on how affected you are by oral stimulation. Oral. Or oral stimulation, not oral stimulation, which is an entirely... Speaking of which,
are you gonna even listen to the podcast now is the question.
I mean, I think using oral to transition into a discussion about
no,
Harvey Weinstein is about as perfect a segue as you can possibly get.
So we're obviously getting right into the subject matter this week, and I'll go ahead and say it. conflicted today that we're going to be talking about some kind of highly politicized stuff without Nick here.
Our most political member.
Well, I would say not our most political. Our most political member.
Yeah.
I would say our most passionate of the threesome.
That makes sense. Yeah, so Nick is likely going to. We'll let Nick know that this is happening by the time he listens to this, so won't be completely blindsided. But it was more just the fact that we needed a podcast to fill the gap coming up to Halloween, and Nick was out of town, and right now you cannot get away from this discussion that of all people to kick off a sexual assault awareness month, essentially, of Harvey Weinstein. There's no way we can't talk about this, and I didn't want to wait 2 weeks into November, because here's the shitty thing about our world, folks. We have a crazy president and we have crazy politics going on. So in 2 weeks, this discussion is not going to be happening anymore.
Well, I won't say it's going to be moot. It's never going to be moot.
No, it's not moot. It's just not going to be at the forefront.
It's not going to be in front and center.
Like, no one's talking about kneeling quarterbacks anymore because we have new shit to worry about, and that seems to be how quickly we turn.
Christ.
So yeah, I wanted to jump on this, and I specifically want to jump on it from, I mean, you've where's my jump on it on the soundboard? I have the most like sobering soundboard for tonight's podcast, and I'm gonna try to sprinkle
we will try
some
to
fun ones.
We're going to try to keep this conversation as light as possible. And honestly, and that's probably the one good thing about not having Nick here, is because we're not going to go down the rabbit hole maybe so much. We can try and keep it a little objective and a little bit light. But honestly, for those of you who aren't don't maybe constantly follow Last Pine Productions or aren't friends with Nick and stuff like that, you would I highly encourage even searching out Nick Santacroce on social media, because he does have some very poignant things to say.
And did a really good post about this whole thing this week, actually, on Facebook as well.
It's something I really liked.
Which I want to, and I actually have I had it pulled up, but I will pull it up again. I lost it here.
We don't have to start there. I would like
no,
to
we don't have to.
that.
I want to have it at some point just so it's on there. But it has been a crazy news cycle recently, and I'm sort of flabbergasted that Hollywood's worst kept secret is the one that's going to actually and that's the question we have to ask on this podcast. What are the lasting repercussions of this? We know what they are for the person, and I think with Harvey Weinstein, for those of you, I assume everyone out there knows what's going on, but Harvey Weinstein, the former head of Miramax Studios, now Weinstein Company, right? That's their
right. It's the Weinstein Company.
They lost Miramax to Disney, and then Disney stole their name, which is sort of amazing that Disney can do that. But they started a company called Miramax, named after their mother, the two Weinstein brothers, mother and father, I think, right? Mira and Max.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from. Miramax was an indie powerhouse of the 90s. If you're in Ben and mine's age group, Miramax is a gigantic part of our love of movies.
If you watch a lot of even like slightly heralded feature indie films nowadays, you're going to see Focus Features a lot. The Focus Features now is the Miramax of the 90s, basically.
I looked up kind of just a list of Miramax movies in general, because I knew like the main ones, but there are some.
Oh, it's
from
incredible.
Early starts with Sex, Lies, and Videotape and My Left Foot, and then there's they did like K2. They did the mountain climbing movie. Like they had some blockbusters in there as well. It was an amazing studio. And for me, Kevin Smith was my entry into filmmaking, as we've talked about on the show before, and Kevin Smith and Miramax are tied together, just like Tarantino and Miramax are tied together. You can't, and that was Kevin Smith's quote about this whole thing was really amazing. He said, Weinstein financed the first 14 years of my career, and now I know while I was profiting, others were in terrible pain. It makes me feel ashamed. And that's what I think is going to be the interesting crux of our discussion today, is that there are so many of these people that were in the orbit of someone like Harvey Weinstein, who not only was a just a powerful producer. He was a known just asshole, ball buster. Just, I mean, every story about Harvey Weinstein, forget the sexual assault things which have been levied against him now. He was known to buy Oscars with aggressive campaigns. Yep. He was like a mob boss.
Yeah, he was known to besmear like competing studios, films, and actors and producers in those films in order to gain a leg up in Oscar races. I mean, the guy was just exactly what you said. He's a villain from like a bad Batman movie almost in a lot of cases.
Well, and what's funny is, as I was pulling clips for this, obviously I don't have like I have one really awful clip, and I don't even know if we're going to play it or not, which is the actual smoking gun of Weinstein and this woman.
I don't even think it's necessary to even play that. But I mean,
I don't know, man. Like I had not actually listened to it until I pulled it today, and I as painful as it is, maybe we'll see what we do. But there are two. This will just give you an idea of what Weinstein was like. Take the sexual assault away. This is Ben Affleck and Kevin Smith talking with Jon Favreau in a great series called Dinner for Five. If you have not seen it,
watch Dinner for Five. Is
best fucking show about movies I think that's ever aired. It's always five guests and Jon Favreau at they've rented a back room in a restaurant. They eat and smoke cigars and drink and talk about movies. And it's amazing.
And it's always such a weird, idiosyncratic group of people that somehow find this like insane common ground. There was like an episode where it's like Jon Favreau, Stan Lee, Marilyn Manson. And like, I mean, it's just bizarre because it's such such a humanistic conversation they have.
Sometimes it would be these random dinners, and sometimes like this one was for, oddly enough, for Daredevil. So it's Colin Farrell, Jennifer Garner, Ben Affleck, Kevin Smith, and Favreau. But this is Affleck and Smith talking about Weinstein.
But we did Harvey just wants to do as much as he possibly can. He was like, this is important, guys. You really need to do this. So we just did everything. He was like, crop reports in Iowa, but people listen to that shit. Get out there and fucking read it. You know what I mean? I fucking put up a lot of money for you two assholes, and
he ain't joking, man.
That's literally
that is literally a quote.
Fuck around. I'm not. I'll come there and I'll have your legs broken. I'm kidding, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
And they're joking about that, but they're not joking about it. And then there's this one was amazing. John Hurt doing press in, I think, India for Snowpiercer, which is Snowpiercer, right? That's the name of which came up on our road trip.
Right. Came up on our road trip.
Which I thought was so great that I pulled this quote.
It was my wild card, not a road trip movie that somehow classifies, like does all the things
It's sort of won that. But this is John Hurt bitching about Weinstein in an interview.
Snowpiercer, which we'll be seeing at Berlin next week. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think it's a wonderful film. I've seen it, and I want it to be shown in the English-speaking territories in its full version. And I'm not in agreement with Harvey Weinstein, who wants to cut 20 minutes out of it, because I know what he'll cut out.
Why do you think he is trying to cut out 20 minutes of this film?
Because it's endemic with him. He can't help. He's always doing it. He's constantly doctoring, feels that he takes something on, and everybody has to hail that, and when I do, I salute that. But then he wants to change it, and he doesn't trust his directors.
And that's fucking John Hurt, who has been in passed away. John Hurt, who was in the business for, he did pass away, right? I didn't pull a Nick. Did I pull a Nick? John Hurt died, right?
I think so.
Yes, I'm pretty sure John Hurt died a few months ago.
Well, I mean, Reginald Val Johnson, I mean, why don't you call Reginald and ask him?
What world do we live in that John Hurt would be dead? Whatever.
Well, in the world that's the world where he is a man and not an animal. So he is a human being.
John Hurt has been in like 1,001 movies and been in the business for many, 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 many years. He's doing press for the movie. And all he wants to say during press for the movie is, "Don't fuck Harvey Weinstein. Stop trying to cut this movie. You're going to cut 20 minutes, and I know the good shit you're going to cut because I know this is what you do, and this is you want to get more showings in for that shit."
Yeah, I mean, it's so there are two sides, and let's even start before we get into the actual crux of what you were talking about, the argument or not even argument, but just the shitty. All the shitty stuff that came out that everybody knew about already. Harvey Weinstein was a talented producer who had an eye for talent when it came to directors. He had an eye for talent when it came to stories, who was known as domineering and overzealous and would cut shit out of really good directors' movies. So one thing I'll say really quick, and this is not in defense of Harvey Weinstein, that's every fucking producer in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That is literally every fucking producer. I'm talking about big studio producers. Big studio producers. So now I think that the reason why Harvey Weinstein got a reputation is somewhat tied into the fact that he was a domineering asshole when it came to women, with the way he controlled women. I think that all bled in, because he had a reputation. It was so well known. It was so, I mean, like even fucking Gwyneth Paltrow on Letterman. Do you have that?
I didn't pull that one. I mean, but here's joke. I mean, these are just jokes about Harvey Weinstein floating around for years.
I'm not afraid of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions.
That's from 30 Rock, like 8 years ago.
And that's Tina, right?
No, that's Jenna Maroney. I realized I cut it too early. She does finish it with, she goes, I turned him down on no less than 3 occasions out of 5. Which is actually a really terrible turn on that one. But yeah, I mean, I've got, hold on a second. Here we go.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
That's Seth MacFarlane doing the Oscar nomination announcements 3 years ago. And I don't know if you read his statement about that joke, which is he had a friend that basically was one of Harvey's victims, and he's like, yeah, I threw the joke in there, and he's like, look, I mean. And they're joking about it, and that's what we tend to do. We tend to joke about things that we can't, that no one, he was so powerful, and I do love that we're talking about him in the past tense, like he's deceased from the movie world, because
he is. I mean,
well, and that's and this is what I had like 3 questions I wanted to ask you. And one's going to open up a couple sore subjects. I
think all of these questions are going to extrapolate a little bit into different.
Well, so here's the and I'm fascinated by this, right? So Harvey Weinstein, this not very well kept secret of an old school Hollywood in modern Hollywood, right? This is a guy that and
I'll already take exception to that statement, because I don't think old school Hollywood, and
you don't think old school Hollywood ever left. I think right. Yeah. Well, and here, so this is really interesting. So this is Stern. This is Howard Stern this week talking about when he had Weinstein on a year and a half ago, and he plays a clip from it. But this is actually really interesting. It's about a minute and a half, so just hold on tight.
That's fine.
You know what's weird too, that we asked Harvey when he was in here. We did an interview with Harvey on the show. And I point blank asked him, I go, did you ever do the mogul thing? Let me see if I have the clip. Hold on. I said, did you ever do the mogul thing where, like, you know, chicks blow you for jobs and stuff like that? And, like, there had always been rumors about Harvey being a bit of a fucking dickwad about all that shit, but, like, there was no sort of evidence of it. And so that's why I kind of specifically said it. Uh-huh. Because I had heard some things, like everybody did. I got to figure every starlet in Hollywood wanted to at least blow you. You know what? By the way, they don't want to blow him, but you know, I'm massaging him into it. He's getting massages,
please
and
explain now.
I'm massaging. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying, did you ever get to experience the I'm going to say the mogul aspect? I mean, do a little coke, you know, hang out with you know, I don't know, Julia Roberts, give you a hand job, something. You never got any of that?
Howard, as you know only too well, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't really?
No, I'll tell you who it works that way for. It works that way for the actors.
No, it's just such fucking bullshit. But I'm going to stop and start this one. But oh shit, it just went away. But there's more. Basically, I don't want to have to re-go through the clip here. I got to figure out how to work this thing better. But he just goes on basically to literally at one point he's like, he starts to say, I wish it worked that way. Like he was nostalgic for these days of the casting couch instead of it being what he was going through, which makes me think it was.
No, I mean, Harvey Weinstein, excuse me, not Bob, I'm not vindicating or eliminating Bob from this conversation, but apparently,
we don't know.
but apparently Bob is kind of the more rational of the two of them, and not a serial rapist. But No, Harvey Weinstein, I think, was one of those guys that always wanted the power of a producer and envied the fame of the actor. And so,
which is what he says. And that's actually, it's so funny you say it, because that's exactly where the clip goes. It is for the actors. The actors get all these benefits. They go, and it's clearly a man who wishes he was an attractive actor,
right?
That has women throwing them at him. He doesn't, so he has to force his way into it. And that's what was so disturbing to me to listen to that clip. That whether we play this or not, it's 2 minutes of Harvey Weinstein whining and threatening a woman because he's in an altercation with her in the hallway of a hotel, and his main concern is someone's going to see them, and he's very famous, and it's going to hurt his thing, and just won't she come inside? He's just going to take a shower, which is apparently his fucking
his
move.
deal, yeah.
And like I won't play it. Stern did this on Kimmel last night, and I had the exact same thought, which is who take the disgusting side of it out of it. I am not a fit gentleman. Whose move is, hey, I know what'll get this girl hot if she comes and watches me shower, because I'm Harvey Weinstein and I'm built like old Seth Rogen. I don't. It doesn't like
old Seth Rogen.
I mean, young Seth Rogen. just schlubby, whatever. It's just I don't understand this idea that's the move.
He's built like fucking Dom DeLuise.
He's not quite Dom DeLuise, but he's working on it. Yeah, but it's so bizarre that's his move. Is like, oh, what if I get her into the shower and she sees me showering, then it'll all. I'm like, and that's what I get. He's not Brad Pitt. He's not this Hollywood. He's not Ben Affleck.
For me, and this is one of those side things. It's like I heard all the shower stuff, and I just assumed maybe he just really has a thing for the shower, and it's like, oh yeah, when I have that hot water falling on me, and I can get. It's the only time I can get hard, you know.
Oh God. That's just so.
It's terrible, but I'm just. I mean,
it's so gross.
I read these accounts.
that is the sound of Harvey Weinstein in the shower.
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
is the just 4 slow yanks. Yeah, I don't get the move, but. So old Hollywood, new Hollywood, and why I said that is it's so ridiculous that his initial excuse is like I didn't know times had changed or something to that effect, that it's not like the old days and he was raised in the old days of Hollywood. I'm like, you weren't raised in the fucking old days of anything. Your movie studio started in the late 80s, a time of coke and all kinds of other shit, and the birth of sexual harassment. And I mean, that was
it wasn't the birth of sexual harassment, but
the birth of sexual harassment as a term that was being acknowledged as something that's happening and being educated on.
Right.
Which, and for those of you that don't know, there is a succinct definition for sexual harassment that can be played.
Due to recent events around the country, I've been instructed to teach you all about sexual harassment in school.
About what?
Now, does anybody know what sexual harassment means? Yes, Eric.
When you're trying to have intercourse with a lady friend and some other guy comes up and tickles your balls from behind.
No, Eric, that's not what I'm talking about.
That is actually one form of sexual harassment, but there are worse forms of sexual harassment, which is what Hollywood is. So it's the Hollywood power system is one of the biggest and most recognizable. And what I think is interesting for somebody like Harvey Weinstein. We're going to get sued now. He's listening everywhere. Next on TMZ. Harvey Weinstein. Is that I wonder also if part of like why these things started to come out more and more, and maybe he was getting sloppier and sloppier with his methods, is that there's so much dilution now for power in the media business that there's reality TV stars that will do things for a reality TV producer. They don't need to go to the Oscar guy for shit. And maybe there's a law of diminishing returns for him on what he was getting out of this.
Well, to be fair, Harvey Weinstein also produced like 6 reality shows. So,
well, shit. Well, no wonder. There we go. That's his other dating pool.
So, here's my kind of don't know if it's not necessarily a thesis, but it's kind of an overall kind of thought process. Harvey Weinstein is obviously a scumbag and demonstrably so. I mean, when it comes to accounts, and I don't care if you're one of those fucking right-wing douchebag fucking jerk-offs who sit in your basement and say, well, these women moved out to Los Angeles and they knew what they signed up for. They fucking exist. They fucking exist, and it's crazy. And they're justified. Which is so funny because they'll be like, oh yeah, the Weinsteins, they donated like $4 million to the Clinton campaign, and then on the other side, they're like, well, these women moved out there to Hollywood and knew what they were signing up for. So I'm like, well, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the women who are going out there and being exploited by these left-leaning liberal fucking people who donate to the Clintons, or are you on the side of the Weinsteins by basically saying, you know what, these women signed up for it, and so you know what, they need to fucking blow me.
Here's how bad
and
Weinstein
I think it's both.
is.
It's fucking
right.
terrible.
And here's how bad Weinstein is. Here's someone talking about Weinstein. I'll let you try and place the voice.
I've known Harvey Weinstein for a long time. I'm not at all surprised to see it.
That's fucking our president, Donald Trump, who was caught on tape literally just being like, yeah, it's Harvey Weinstein. He's a scumbag. Like that. He's somehow transcended scumbags, but that also bothers me a little bit. And I want to be careful with this because I don't want it to come off the wrong way. But I feel I can't say he's being thrown under the bus because he deserves every fucking arrow that's being levied at him.
I know exactly where you're going, which is where I was about to go.
Okay, you do it. You hit it.
Which is what the culture that has permeated Hollywood, especially, but also just popular culture. We'll get to the broader scheme of things, but let's just talk about movies. Let's talk about Hollywood. Even ever since the 1910s, the 1920s, Hollywood was known for exploiting women. Mm-hmm. They would bring women in and they would promise them roles and they would hook them up with these powerful, money men and producers and stuff like that. And they would be, arm candy or whatever, and they would be required to perform sexual tasks.
Get abortions, be seen in all the shit. They
exactly. Illegal abortions. I mean, we're talking about it's pretty disgusting. It is a shady fucking town, and it never quit. It never quit. So Harvey Weinstein's thing about like the old days actually isn't that untrue. I mean, Hollywood's always had that going on. I mean, you can, and the thing is there have been scandals all over the place in the past in Hollywood. There's been your Roman Polanski's. I mean, there's been so many people, even like Woody Allen. I mean, like there are so many. Brian fucking Singer, which, and so I will throw in a Nick anecdote here. Nick said that he saw Brian Singer on the Fox lot followed by a harem of 6 young gentlemen. I don't know if that's true. I will trust Nick because he said it was true. And so when all of that shit came out about Brian Singer, I'm just like, Brian Singer's a fucking director. Like, why would he even why? Why would he even why would he need that? Why would he even have to do that?
Yeah.
And Nick swears to God that this is what is happening or what was happening there. So
who's now directing a Queen biopic that Nick will definitely want to go see.
Which I definitely
want to go see it. I actually love Brian Singer as a director.
And the problem is like, and that's the thing. It's so hard. Sometimes I like Roman Polanski as a director. And Woody Allen is one of my favorite working directors, although I have very strong opinions on the whole Woody Allen thing because, I mean, Mia Farrow's own oldest son says that his mom is full of shit.
Yeah.
And that to me is saying
and we've had this debate as well. Which is and that was my one question to you was, so Harvey Weinstein's out of the Academy. How many other people should be technically out of the Academy?
Right. And so you do have, I think, this old guard. And I don't think it's permeated the culture for so long that's definitely part of Hollywood. I think that is the nasty side of Hollywood. Now, do I think that all producers in Los Angeles are terrible people? No, I think it's 10% probably, maybe less,
maybe more,
10%, 10 to 20%. No, I'm saying just overall, you're looking at all the producers and stuff like that. They have done something in their position to take advantage of a woman or a man. Because of their position, I would say is that in that 10 to 20% range, which is fucking astonishingly huge. I mean, you realize how many people work in the industry in Los Angeles? That's fucking disgusting.
Well, and here's so there are two really hard conversations to have around this, right? So I'll say I'll be the first on my side of it, and it's something I struggled with this week a lot about. Do I want to post something on social media? Do I want to make a big thing or whatever out of it? But here's the thing. So let's say there's like 10 or 15% mustache twirling Weinsteins out there, right? The big bads, the Mel Gibsons, the whatever. And then there's got to be about 40 or 50% that are, I'm going to put them what I call the Matt camp. All right. And this will be just my admission of general guilt as being a young, stupid, foolish male.
Exactly.
And that, yes, I have at times, probably multiple times, not an alarming number of times, but more than one is bad. I have not abused a position of power, but I'm sure I have pushed things or I have coerced is the right, I'm trying to get the right language on this, but
I like where you're going here, but it goes into the whole thing about what Nick said, which is why I said it's a good thing to maybe look at his social media, because his whole point was like, and actually read it if you want to.
Yeah. So here's Nick's statement that he put on Facebook. The Me Too movement is doing exactly what it set out to do. Today, I'm feeling an emotional swell of anger, sadness, and sympathy for people I care a great deal about. But more importantly, I feel responsibility for any time my actions have justified those two words to be entered into a social media feed. This goes for anyone, but let's face it, it's really up to men to change the conversation from Me Too to I have. I'm happy that many of my fellow men friends have echoed this sentiment already today. But it's pathetic that as Americans we've made survivors feel like if they came forward, they would be humiliated, lose their jobs, or justice would never be served. Now, our loved ones are stepping to a spotlight they never asked for just so we can get to the fucking picture. We need to be better. And it's 100% correct. And I have to say with almost, I gotta think it's almost 100%. Every single man out there, anyone listening to this podcast, that people I count as my friends and family, we have all, as men, done despicable things in our past. Maybe not overly damaging, maybe not overly whatever, but they were action that we've done actions that have contributed to the problem. And what is scary and interesting to discuss about this is that we are just average folks, right? We are, right. I mean, you were in a band that's there's a little bit more of like a fame aspect to that in general. A little bit.
What?
There's you guys were a well-known band that had a following. Is that safe to say?
Sure.
Right. So I'm saying, look at it, tiers of power, right? You guys are like a half step above the nothing power versus that. But there's an idea of what if one of these actions I had done in my past, if I had done it as a celebrity, right? If I had done it as or I had access to what celebrities have access to, or the people that are sometimes throwing themselves at them but aren't really, what are they throwing themselves at and what are they taking advantage of? There are some discussions. And what's interesting, where it kind of came to head to me was with Ben Affleck, right? So Affleck comes out immediately, with this Weinstein statement, as has now Kevin Smith, as has sort of Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino gave a preview of his statement to Amber Tamblyn, which I can read for you guys at a moment. But Ben Affleck was very interesting to me. So Ben Affleck came out very quickly
and very hard.
And he said, and he very much did that. And Ben Affleck did that knowing he had conversations with people, and he had done things where he had abused power to an extent, or he had conversations telling people to brush something under the rug. And maybe it's that I'm an Affleck apologist in general, but a lot of people shit on him for it, and I kind of went the other way a little bit to say that this is someone that knows this statement is going to. He's not stupid, of all things.
No.
And he may be an asshole, which he very likely is.
Yes,
right.
But he knew
exactly what he was going to do when he posted that statement.
What is better, just absorbing that and being able to say, listen, I am going to be the first one to back the actresses. I'm going to be the first one to back that and go back there, and I'm going to absorb that, or to remain complacent. And I think that he had to. I mean, that's a storm you have to weather when you were that tightly.
Well, and it's like, and I'm like, and I'm looking, and there are people I like. I mentioned Smith's thing. Tarantino's statement was, for the last week, I've been stunned and heartbroken about the revelations that have come to light about my friend for 25 years, Harvey Weinstein. I need a few more days to process my pain, emotions, anger, and memory, and then I will speak publicly about it. Right? We've all done actions that could be amplified.
So here's the thing. I would
something weird here.
I would like to stop for a second, because here's the thing. I've rewound over my entire life, which I feel like a lot of people should do. You know, because I feel like context is necessary at certain points, and you have to realize, look at your own actions, and say, what did I do at certain points that could have whatever? Because I'm a very, very, when it comes to sexuality, I've been very passive in my life. I have not been overtly aggressive with many women. It is quite the opposite. In fact, I've usually kind of submitted to aggression in the past, very willingly, of course. But
Effortless Wilson, ladies and gentlemen.
But then no. But then I thought about, and I'm not gonna elaborate on it, but I thought about two specific instances. And they're so minor. They don't involve anything that's obviously that I think that would not be non-permissive, from an alternate party. But there are times that I have thought back on in this past week and a half where I've thought, if I what does that qualify? Does it? And I think it bears enough. It has enough. It has enough there. And like I said,
there's an easy answer. It qualifies. It's shitty to know that and think that. But it's a minor offense, but it still qualifies.
No, but here's the thing. I'm talking about minor offenses, as in even when there is still a yes.
Yes.
And even when it doesn't, it's still. But there's something. Yes. But if there's
something in the back of your head,
if there's something off,
if there's a doubt,
and if there's something there, why would you do anything? And so I think it builds to this larger conversation. Basically, I mean, that permeates the entire culture and the way that. Everyone reacts to one another, whether it's male to male or male to female or female to female or whatever your sexuality is, or whatever, however you, whatever you relate to. I found it interesting that I found myself kind of thinking about these two specific moments of saying, something was weird for me, and honestly, the fact that it was weird for me is also kind of like that flips the tables on that side too, because I'm just like, I maybe didn't even want to what was going on here, and so it's. I think it's a good for people to have that moment of recollection and that moment of realization that it's not so much that you've done shitty thing. It's more of, because I don't feel like I've ever done anything shitty. I've never done anything to bemean. I've never forced anybody into doing anything. I have been very complacent in my sexual endeavors or whatever in my entire life. But there have been moments of awkwardness where I think it's good enough for people to realize, listen, these are moments where people do need to, in the moment, say, okay, let's figure out what's going on here and actually find some sort of game plan moving forward.
I mean, again, without going into specifics.
Yeah,
it's hard.
No,
and it's difficult. I mean, look,
I will never go into specifics, but I'm very cognizant of these
I mean, I think
moments.
I for me, the ones that I'm concerned about, the ones that weigh on me, ones where I do feel more participatory than you do on some of these things, right?
I know you.
Yeah, you know me, but and that's the thing, and it's times where nothing's ever been like. And so here's the thing about Matt, in case you don't know it, Matt's not a super physical guy. He's a talker. And yeah, that's just as fucking bad, right? Like, that's sort of that part of what this podcast is slightly cathartic in this week's as well, is to say, look, you need to examine what you've done in your past. Maybe there are people you need to reach out to from your past. Not everyone out. Look, I'm not putting everyone at the same level. I'm at how many thetans is like the top level and how many is like a low level, whatever the Scientology scale is. I'm in like the bottom 1/3 percentile, I'm sure, of these things, probably in lower than that. But seriously though, you, as the men out there that are listening, or women that have done things as well, which is a much smaller fucking percentage. Let's be honest about it. But
it's a smaller percentage. But I mean, but there are also women who pressure other women. I mean, there's all sorts of. It is universal. Like, obviously, we're going to get back to the topic at hand, which is
what do you do? So I had a question for you that was kind of a putting you in a different role, right? Because I've been in a situation at a workplace I was at, which I've talked to you about a couple times.
Yeah, I think I know where you're bringing
where
that.
I worked for a boss who basically a week into his position asked me which of my coworkers' tits did I think were nicest. And I declined to answer, and that person hated me for the rest of the time they were there. Now, the question I'm going to ask you sort of flips that a little bit, because this is a much tougher question, right? So I didn't say anything, by the way. I didn't go to the owners of the company and tell them that this person was there.
You can go to HR.
But I didn't play along with the guy's guy. I took what I think is probably the Tarantino Kevin Smith route, which is I'm not cheering Harvey on, but I'm not going and telling anyone about it. So here's the question for you, Ben. And I'm going to make it a specific person, because there's one very specific person that's very difficult I imagine that was very difficult for this person. So let's take Gwyneth Paltrow, right? Gwyneth Paltrow's career. And by the way, I think a lot of people hate on Gwyneth Paltrow. I think she's a phenomenal fucking actress. I think you look at her work in Seven. I think you look at her work in Shakespeare in Love. I think you look at her work in a couple of other pieces, and she delivers some really nuanced things, all right? So say whatever you want about her. She named her kid Apple. Fuck that. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You're Gwyneth Paltrow. Your career has been skyrocketed because of a movie that was questionably won an Academy Award because Weinstein had such an aggressive campaign about it. You have an Oscar for...
Honestly, I think that film won an Academy Award because of the parody that year with the war films. And they were splitting votes, honestly.
Maybe that... Maybe.
No,
maybe.
I mean, coupled with the very aggressive...
Whatever it is. Let's just say... But
campaign.
you know that at that point, Harvey Weinstein is your... The clip you were telling me to pull up is Gwyneth Paltrow on David Letterman over Thanksgiving. And he's like, "Why are you on the show?" And she's like, "Ask Harvey Weinstein. This is what I've been told I have to do. This is..." Now, that can be just that any person has to do a publicity tour and whatever. But... So you're Gwyneth Paltrow, and you win an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love. And your career, your entire future has now been laid out for you. A Best Actress, not a Best Supporting Actress, which is a very different award as far as the rest of your career goes. But Best Actresses tend to have some longevity in their careers, for the most part.
Tend to.
There's a young actress that's about to be cast in the next Miramax movie that's coming up, and you have a lunch. You get a 3-hour lunch with her. What is your track? What do you tell her? What is your advice to her?
I think you go the Jennifer Lawrence route. I think you say, don't. Because I think Jennifer Lawrence was basically one of the people who was like, I made a mistake once, and I let myself be kind of brought down to a level once, and I'm not going to do that again. And I would say don't let yourself be brought down to that level one time.
Sure.
I would say let your talent take you somewhere. I think honestly one of the best spokespeople through this entire ordeal has been Rose McGowan, because Rose
Amazingly
McGowan
enough,
has said some really poignant and really fantastic things.
And
Rose McGowan was one of those people that was known as a sex symbol for a decade.
Not only
and a half.
that, but Rose McGowan is also the flip side of this coin, which is why. And I asked that question because I don't expect you to say anything other than what you just said, because you're a good human being, right? But there's a question to say. That question is asked to two people. It's asked to Rose McGowan and it's asked to Gwyneth Paltrow. One of them plays the game and one of them doesn't.
Right.
And then one of their careers explodes and the other one doesn't.
So I think that's more of a question to the actress of saying,
sure.
Are you? Do you? What is the price of fame here? Like, do you want to? But the
and
thing
that's
is
a terrible thing to have to give as advice, right?
But that shouldn't be the question. We should be talking about the issue, the larger issue at hand.
Sure.
Obviously, if we're talking about status quo.
Yeah.
Yes, there are actresses that are willing to play that game and are willing to. I mean,
have you ever given advice to an employee of yours?
Anybody, and then we're not talking to people who are stupid here. If you've been,
we're not talking to anyone, in fairness, but it's just Greg. Greg's not that stupid.
If you've been to Los Angeles, you know. And I love the line in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang where he says, "Oh, that girl, she's still trying to act. She's been 37." And he's like, "Oh, what's her deal?" Well, she's been fucked more times. She's had hot meals, and it's true. It's like it's absolutely true, because there are women that will go out there and they will try to play the game. They will fuck their way into fame.
Yeah,
that culture should never exist.
It shouldn't be an option.
It shouldn't be an option. But but there are women who try to do that. And strangely enough, I feel like most of the women who try to do that fucking fail.
No, and we think so.
We think so.
We don't know.
Maybe not.
I mean, Dame Judi Dench, I think definitely. No, that's a terrible joke. But I don't know, right? I don't know what all of these women went through, and that's really frightening. And that's the weird thing about Harvey Weinstein is that. Well, I have this tendency to say, "Oh, congratulations, Hollywood! You found your martyr to lay it on, and it's fine. You can keep Bill Cosby and Roman Polanski and Woody Allen in the Academy, but you're going to get rid of Weinstein. So you paid your 30 pieces of silver." The only good that comes from this is that
first off, I do not like lumping
Woody Allen
in with those people, because
I will lump in Polanski though, for sure.
Absolutely,
he just had another one on him.
No.
Okay, I'll pull Woody Allen out of it, but Cosby, Polanski,
you can lump in,
and Weinstein walk into a
Woody
bar.
Allen never did anything illegal, and according to listen,
Weinstein didn't do anything illegal.
Oh yeah,
it was immoral.
No, he basically raped people, so that's
well,
illegal.
Okay.
Sexual assault is illegal.
Okay.
In case you didn't know. But no, the only reason why I'm pulling Woody Allen out of it, and like I said, this is more of a thing. I'm not saying Woody Allen never did anything wrong. I'm not taking that stance.
So that you guys should know, Woody Allen is one of our biggest sponsors. So I just have to say that ahead of time. But
but no, the whole reason why I bring that up is because from all professional sources, Woody Allen has never abused his position as a person
you're correct, yeah.
to do anything along those lines, and all of the stuff that involves
he's a strange family life.
All of the stuff that involves Woody Allen is all personal stuff. Basically, It does not involve starlets or young kids. I
will rescind.
And like I said,
my invitation
it's not, and I'm not saying you should rescind your criticism of Woody Allen.
No, you're right.
If you believe that Woody Allen did something wrong, you are willing to look at the evidence.
Get a little bit of a rise out of you.
You were willing to look at the evidence, and you were willing to listen to the people in those families and think what you.
I also am a Woody Allen fan too, so that makes things difficult in general. But yeah, I think listen, Harvey Weinstein is not the only awful person in the Academy. I mean, Brett Ratner has a famous story about masturbating and eating shrimp in front of Olivia Munn, which, for God's sake, can we please get Brett Ratner out of the Academy? Can someone get Brett Ratner? I don't, for any, just pick an offense. I don't care if it's one of his movies or the Olivia Munn thing, just get him out. But
I mean, honestly, I just think that they should, the entire Academy should just be forced to watch X-Men: The Last Stand 3 times in a row, and they'll kick him out immediately. I mean, why wouldn't they?
This is the hardest question I have to ask tonight, because it pains me, and it pains me because of conversations I've had with my brother about our current political landscape.
By the way, every single question you've asked me is a question I had for you. So
okay,
this is a very good dialogue.
I'm enjoying this, and this part is the part where I start to I crumble a little bit more than I have even so far. So, and John Oliver's done a great job on his show of doing the same thing, where the president of the United States does something, gets caught just lying flat out on camera, does something,
and it doesn't fucking matter.
And Oliver's thing is he's got a button that's like, it's the he's no longer president button, and they have this huge celebration. He goes, oh wait, no, we found out he's still president. And so I'm guilty of falling into it too, that every time I think something has happened that will warrant some sort of change, it doesn't warrant some change. And part of why we wanted to talk about this today, again, sorry, Nick Santa Croce, that we had to do this without you here. Part of it was that I wanted the immediacy, because I am worried it goes away in a week or 2 weeks. But I'm also sort of hopeful, again, and this is where I get let down a lot, that he was such a loathed human being to begin with that it was very easy for people to kind of, even though their careers were tied to him. That was the hardest part, was the career implication. And I love that his letter out to his friends, by the way, I don't know if you saw that or not, that was basically the last time he was like, I'm desperate for help. I love that was his life preserver being thrown out there.
I fucking love that. I love, because at that point I read some of these response that was said. My husband, who's a producer, read this to me aloud, and I was laughing and crying simultaneously.
I'm hopeful, because he is the perfect person to bring a lot of this shit down, because he's so overt about it. And Mel Gibson was close, except that Mel Gibson wasn't hitting anybody. And the other part of it was that people genuinely liked Mel Gibson. People genuinely like Roman Polanski. People genuinely like Bill Cosby. They were likable people. No one fucking liked Harvey Weinstein in any sort of capacity.
Yeah.
So when it turned out that he was a villain, it was very easy for people to go, yeah, obviously. And the only hope I have is that it brings it enough into the forefront that there are some asshole producers out there right now, some disgusting troll producers that are going to think twice before they do something awful to another human being, because they know they're next. They know that, and that's getting rid of the cockroaches in the bottom floor. There are a lot of that middle, that like next 10% we were talking about, whether it's 10 or 20%.
Right.
Those are the real tricky guys, because those are the good-looking producers out there.
Right.
Those are the handsome producers that are. They have power, but they're good looking. So are they really doing something bad? Are they really doing whatever this is that's being levied against them? Yes. Yes, they fucking are. And that's an important thing for everyone out there to be thinking about as well. It's really easy to be unattractive and say I've done bad things and I should work harder on being a better person. It is a lot harder to say I'm a very handsome, engaging, wonderful person to most people out there, and I've used that to get away with some really despicable behavior. It doesn't make you any worse than anyone else. No one doing any of the things that I've done, that I will admit to having done in my past, that I strive not to ever do again, and I'll commit them to being sins of my youth. Not even that young, but young enough.
It's like in Wedding Crashers, they're sitting there. He's like, "Oh, we're just a couple dumb kids." It's like we're not that young.
Yeah, you know what? God damn, that's exactly the realm I'm in.
Actually,
you're 100% correct.
I know, because I've only known you since you've been like
This is
30.
true. You know my like 3 major sins, I think. So it's great. That's wonderful.
Can I read something? Actually,
Please.
really fast.
Oh, we got time. Don't worry.
No, I know. But anyways, and actually, this is another reason why I'm happy that Nick isn't here right now.
Don't say that.
No. I'm only happy because of this one bit, because Nick and I have a very opposite view of this specific person based off of his one moment of where he felt like something was going amiss in film school. I think it was one of my mentors, Brittany Bradburn, who was the principal editor last year on This Is Us.
Oh, nice.
This year, This Is Us and Dynasty is kind of a heavyweight, out there in the editing world.
All right.
Directed an episode of Heart of Dixie. I mean, like, she's,
wow.
Big deal. But she wrote something really great yesterday that for me meant a lot, which was, Dear Hollywood, we don't need you to donate money to charities or to women. We don't need your diversity programs that give us training that no man has ever needed. We don't need your apologies, thanks, but we don't need them. We need you to hire us. We need you to produce our films. We need you to buy our projects. We need you to partner with us, to ride or die with us. We need you to step up and put your careers and reputations in our hands. Yeah, you did it with Harvey. You can do it for us. Only in this case, we won't let you down. Yours truly, the women. And I feel like that's and I think it's all across the spectrum. I think that's the most important thing is the best thing can come out of this, which won't come out of this, is that it's not about the actresses, only the actresses. It's not only about the talent. It's not only about hiring these ingenues that are whether they're willing to play the game and whether they're willing to suck a producer's dick or not, or whether they're willing to stand for themselves. Populate the set with women. It's not gonna fucking happen as much as it used to. And I think that's the only way that you curb it. That's the only way, because I feel like right now, and if you listen to Jennifer Lawrence's story, you had women that were complicit in it because they were in it
because there's such a small amount,
minority.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you
and by the way,
that's the paradigm shift to me that needs to happen. It's all about populating that industry with more people with perspective and women with integrity, and that, to me, that's the biggest thing that needs to change.
Yeah, and if you're an asshole out there blaming the women that you want to consider to be complicit in this, and that's your defense against it, is that, well, they are the real problem, that they're the one. No, you're a horrible human being.
Yeah, you're a fucking idiot,
and you're probably not listening to this, so it doesn't matter. But that's not the problem. Isn't the women? The problem is the women are put into a Hunger Games situation every fucking set they work on. Every time they go to audition for something, they are put into the situation of, who gets the part? The one who wants it the most. And how do you want it the most? Well, you better be willing to do whatever it is. Right. That doesn't mean burying yourself as an actress. That means burying your body a lot of times as an object. And that's a terrible, terrible, terrible. And it does happen for men too. I mean, it happens on that side as well. And I think there are also a lot of. I mean, I think it's a smaller number, but there's a lot of men that once that happens to them, then they get blackballed completely because they're implicit in someone else's big secret. Like it's a lot harder for a guy to sleep his way to the top, but he has a lot more opportunities in general, which is why it's just a fucking mess of things. But I mean, I think it's an important discussion to have, and it's part of why we wanted to talk about it on this podcast tonight and just sort of get our own things out there. But I think that the important thing to get from it is that it's not, this is no advice. It's like, see something, say something. It's much more about just being honest and accountable. And I think the more that we are honest and accountable as human beings, especially men out there, the more we will tend to make amends, to fix things, or to not repeat mistakes. And I think it's kind of like like rock climbing. You get like a handhold on the next level, and you may fall a little bit, whatever, but you still have that level that you got to, and as long as you can get back to that again.
And I'm glad that both of us at least claim some sort of level of culpability. Like
every one of us is
and that's the
to
thing.
blame.
And that's the thing. I think that every one of us is to blame, and whether it's just a matter of adhering to stereotype. And I don't care if you're fucking Mike Pence and you won't go to fucking dinner with a woman if your wife isn't present. You're still gonna. I mean, obviously, well, that's sexist on all sorts of other levels.
Well, I mean, that's
fucking literal, right? Like,
in fairness to Mike Pence, this was his sexual harassment training.
Please welcome Petey, the sexual harassment panda.
Who lives in the east neath the willow tree? Sexual harassment panda who explains sexual harassment to you and me. Sexual harassment panda, don't say that, don't touch there, don't be nasty, says the silly bear. He's gonna tell you what's right and wrong. Sexual harassment panda.
And he watched that and immediately said, "We have to close Planned Parenthood in Indiana."
So there was a very weird moment of zen I had this week about all of what we were going to discuss on this and everything I've been reading about. And I don't know that this comedian is as funny as I think they are. And I actually didn't even pull the clip because it's too long and I don't have time to edit, but I will paraphrase a little bit. But there was this comedian on Conan O'Brien the other night, and his entire routine was about Guy Fieri. And the whole routine was literally...
I don't think you said his name right.
Guy Fieri.
There you go.
All right. So you just fed right into this guy's routine, right? You fed into this guy's... So
as long... Hey, wait, listen. As long as he's still mayor of Flavortown after this bit.
He sort of will be. So this guy's routine was... I don't know why this resonated so much with me, and I will post it on our page so you can listen to it in its entirety. But the entire routine is, why do we hate Guy Fieri so much? And this guy, literally, the whole routine is like, here are all the really nice things Guy Fieri has done. He's offered all of these businesses free advertising they would never be able to afford as small businesses on their own, and has kept their business alive. Here are all the charities that he sends things to all this up. But he wears his sunglasses on the back of his neck, so fuck him. And that's the entire routine, is literally just a list of... This is a guy whose biggest offense is that he's got loud hair, and he wears the glasses on the back of his neck, and he kind of dislikes shitty food, yet he has taken all of his celebrity to give back to the community and to be a good human being, right? And here's the sad part. More people will defend Roman Polanski than they will Guy Fieri. And this is someone who has never done
Say
anything.
his name right, goddammit.
I can't. Killing me. You kill me every time I try to say it. But there's some sort of calm, and what I love is, and of course, and he has a brilliant tie into the back. He's like, everyone treats this guy like he's from Nickelback. I mean, he's not from Nickelback. He's not awful. He's just like, and he goes, wait a minute. What's really wrong with Nickelback? and my favorite part about the whole end of that routine is he's like, listen, there are 40,000 bros out there who love Nickelback. And as long as we keep them listening to that music, we'll be just fine. But the ones that get away from it, those are the guys that get elected president.
No, that's actually... I think that's actually pretty poignant, because you everyone does lose sight occasionally of the things that do matter and don't matter, and what you care about in popular culture, and like what fucking an athlete does or doesn't do. And like you said earlier, like we've moved on from like the national anthem standing or kneeling or whatever, and the whole thing. I've always said from the beginning, I'm just like, who the fuck cares? We live in fucking America. They can
Fuck,
do it.
this is America.
Yeah, no. Everybody else is like, America, fuck yeah. You need to stand up for the national anthem. I'm like, America, fuck yeah. You can do whatever the fuck you want to. I don't care if you piss on the flag, and then you're sitting there with wearing a fucking Colonel Collins
to quote Brad Pitt from Seven, wearing your grandma's panties and rubbing yourself in peanut butter.
Yes, exactly. Honestly, that is your fucking privilege. So yeah, you're gonna piss off a bunch of people. That's fine, but it's your right as a human being that lives in America to do that.
We get overtly angry over a lot of the wrong things, and we spend more time on these other things. And yeah, I've probably...
And it's like all these people who are just like, amendment, Second Amendment, fuck it, it's not a fucking privilege, it's a fucking right to own my fucking gun, but you better stand for the fucking national anthem. I'm just like, where the fuck do you get off? You're fucking insane. It's a fucking, you have to stand for the national anthem. It's your right to own a fucking gun, the thing that was created in the 1600s to kill people.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyways, that's an end of rant.
You're right.
Thing.
I know.
But it's just so fucking arbitrary and stupid. Like, come on. What are your fucking inalienable human rights here? We live in a great country. Fucking read the Constitution, you fucking redneck assholes. God damn it.
Wow.
Get a fucking clue. I'm from Tennessee. I'm sorry, man.
Wow. I mean, that's... my mom was in Texas, so we should get together sometime.
No, Texas is its own country, man.
No, I think...
I'm not hating on guns, man.
No.
If you want to fucking own a gun, own a fucking gun.
I technically own a gun. It sits in my garage.
I own a gun.
It sits in my garage. It is so hard to get to right now. I can get to...
I would love to... I think we should make a video game, just like a VR of you trying to get to your gun as somebody's trying to break into your house.
It would take me at least 30 minutes to get to my gun right
It's a
now.
survival horror story.
And by the way, that's 30 minutes that is only useful because it's probably the heaviest object I own. I don't have any bullets for it. I don't own a single fucking bullet for this gun.
The best thing you do, like I said, it's a video game.
Oh, it is.
It's survival horror. You get it, and the best thing you can do is throw it at the
So
assailant.
it is a Ruger single action. If I hit someone with this, it would probably kill. I mean, I am more likely to kill someone by blunt force with this gun than I am by ever shooting them. I would never hit anyone if I was doing that. But
it's like a Ruger 22.
If I popped you in the head right now, I'd have to call 911 and you would be dead on the floor. I think it is super fucking heavy. But so I think that the lesson, if we're gonna teach you one lesson throughout the history of the new way.
The more you know.
The more you know. The lesson is choose the shit you talk about. It's easier to bitch about the Kardashians or Nickelback or Guy Fieri in the world.
Well done.
It's more fun and it's enjoyable, right? And we do it because it is fun and it's easy and it's low hanging fruit. But there are
I can bitch about Michael Bay as long as until the cows come home, man.
And oddly enough, I don't read shit about Michael Bay. I read
Michael Bay, who is actually a young, decent-looking director,
and I think Michael Bay Michael Bay casts hot women to use them on film.
The only thing that I have heard is that he did cast Megan Fox after she washes Ferrari in his driveway.
But see, that's the thing. I think Michael Bay is like he's the voyeur of. He's like, look, I just want to cast a really hot girl in my movie because I know my movie's not very good without the hot girl,
right?
And the other thing is that he tends to.
Who knows? Maybe somebody will.
Well, he tends to match it up on the male side too.
Beans on him.
Look at Pain and Gain. We see a lot of beefcake in that movie and not a lot of women. And he made sure to get Josh Duhamel in his Transformers movies to get that side of it. I think Michael Bay just likes things that look good, whether it's a car or a man or a woman. If they look good, they work for his movie. And that's kind of amazing that. Wow, guys! So we just spent an hour and 7 minutes
on Michael
and we
Bay.
end on. You know who's a pretty decent guy? Michael Bay.
I never ended on that. You ended on that. So
I think the moral we've learned is that the nicest man in Hollywood
I've
is
never
obviously Michael Bay.
Listen, I think the only two people to think about Michael Bay when they finish are Matt Schenck and Michael Bay.
And my brother.
Oh, no, it's true. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah, you're right. You're a Michael Bay guy.
Oh wow! So yeah, look. If you're out there and
better.
be better.
Be better.
B, if you can do it, if you have the means to do it, and you have the gumption, I guess, to do it, go out and make an apology or two if you feel it's necessary. It doesn't fix anything that's happened, but it's sure as hell better than not saying anything and not owning up to something, whether it was bad. You may find out you apologize and the person's like, I didn't see it that way. That might be the case. It's not necessarily going to be the case, but it doesn't hurt to every once in a while go out and, I mean, I like to drink, so I've made many apologies on day afters and it has nothing to do with sexual assault or anything. It's like, hey,
does it?
I'm sorry I ate your family's cat food last night and was transported 6 years into the future.
Well, that night also involved a sexual assault. It was just a futuristic sexual assault. He was like, I went to the future. I apologize for what I did 6 years from now.
And I did try to talk my way into John Reinsfield's bed. And we may have all sexually assaulted you on a table while you were strapped down.
Yeah.
So
that tends to happen.
No, that's assault. That's assault, my friend. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed a different episode of The New Way. And I
like talking with you about it.
Yeah,
so
this is super interesting. And look, we will, Nick, this is the invitation to you. Right now, if you want to revisit this down the line, let's have a more in-depth conversation. I don't think it ever hurts to have this conversation, especially if it's going to maybe make it out to more people to be heard. We thank you so much for listening. Please tune in next week. I can't tell you enough about how we
have to share the shit out of this just so people tune in next week.
At the very least, the last 10 minutes of the episode is just pure insanity gold. All at Ben's expense.
Yes, I know. I was 100%. Drunk. I was drunk.
So we were all pretty fucking tipsy. You maybe were a step above.
I was getting the next level drunk there, but it was close. It was.
I think it was more the candy that was affecting you than the alcohol.
Dude, the sugar got to me.
You definitely had a sugar high
fast. I was just like. You'll see next week.
Oh, and by the way, I am also. This is Ben's hearing about this. This is an exclusive for The New Way. I am going to attempt to shoot something on Tuesday night around the haunted house I've created for my Halloween party next week, and I'm going to be using a Halloween-esque Steadicam rig to. Get some fun angles and Evil Dead shots and all kinds of things to see the ghoulish house I have on display. So hopefully we'll have that up on the site as well. And to Beth's mom, we will be promoting more on our website and on Facebook, and especially because Beth appears in next week's. And
Beth will also be on new episodes coming up soon.
Ooh, another one.
Yes.
Ooh. We're excited. Oh, and maybe a Mr. Fincannon as well. Correct?
I would hope so.
And we need to get Laura to Skype in. So we're gonna try to keep branching out and getting some more people on here. It gets a little tricky when it's super crowded, but I think 3 and a guest is not too bad. So I think we'll do a good job. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to hear from you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.